The bond between a trainer and their Pokémon is supposed to be the heart of the entire Pokémon world. It's built on trust, friendship, and the promise of adventure. But what happens when that trust is shattered? What happens when a trainer looks at their Pokémon and decides it's too weak, too much of a hassle, or just not good enough? Today, we're looking at the heartbreaking stories of 4 Pokémon who were thrown away by the one person they were supposed to be able to count on. Tepig's story might be the most straightforwardly cruel of them all. Its trainer, a guy named Seamus, had a simple, heartless rule. If you lose, you're useless. When his Tepig lost a battle against a Deerling, a Pokémon it should have had a type advantage over, Seamus declared it talentless and unworthy of his so-called Fire Warriors team. But Seamus didn't just release Tepig, he was actively cruel. When the little fire pig, being its affection itself, kept trying to follow him, Seamus tied it to a post so it couldn't. This single act had horrifying consequences. When Ash eventually found Tepig, it was starving, its snout so tightly tangled in the rope that it couldn't even eat. When confronted about this, Seamus felt zero remorse. He actually tried to defend himself, arguing it would have been crueler to force a talentless Pokémon to keep battling. The manipulation went even deeper. Seamus later admitted that he would pretend to be sad when releasing weak Pokémon. Why? So they'd be too confused and heartbroken to fight back if they ever met again. This revelation completely crushed Tepig, who had held on to the idea that Seamus at least cared a little. It was only during a battle against Seamus's team that Tepig, inspired by Ash's Snivy, finally found its own fire, evolving into Pignite and demolishing its former abuser's team. And when Seamus had the nerve to ask for Pignite back, he was met with a face full of fire. Pignite had found a trainer who saw its value, win or lose. Imagine waiting for years, waiting in a dusty, abandoned building, clinging to a single promise from your trainer, "I'll be back for you." But that promise was a lie. Gengar's story is a chilling example of psychological neglect, all born from one trainer's superstition and selfishness. Its original trainer was having a run of bad luck. He couldn't win battles, couldn't catch Pokémon, and instead of looking at his own skills, he blamed his partner. He decided his Gengar was a curse. But instead of just releasing Gengar, he chose deception. He left it at an empty lot, and his fake promise chained the loyal Pokémon to that spot. As the years went by, Gengar's hope soured into bitterness. It started haunting the building, trying to scare away anyone who came near, all in a misguided attempt to keep the spot open for its trainer's return. It grew to distrust all humans, its deep loneliness turning into poltergeist-like mischief. The heartbreaking truth finally came out when Ash, who was being haunted by this very Gengar, happened to run into its old trainer. The guy was bragging to his girlfriend about how great his life had been ever since he got rid of his annoyed, terrible Gengar years ago. Gengar overheard everything from Ash's shadow and, consumed by rage and grief, emerged to attack the man who had not only abandoned it, but had slandered its name for years. The trainer, a total coward, fled in terror without a single word of apology. In that moment of pure pain, Ash showed Gengar the compassion it had been missing, eventually earning its trust and giving the lonely ghost a true home. Let's move to the story that probably broke all of our hearts as kids. The tale of a loyal little Charmander, left on a rock, waiting for a trainer who was never coming back. That trainer was a guy named Damian, whose ego was only matched by his cruelty. In a Pokémon Center, Ash and the gang overheard him bragging to his friends about how he ditched his Charmander because it was too weak. His logic was simple and absolutely brutal. If it can't win, it's useless. So, he left it behind, lying right to its face with a false promise to return. What makes Damian so uniquely horrible is his complete lack of shame. He openly mocked Charmander's loyalty, the very thing that makes Pokémon so special. As he was bragging, a storm rolled in and the rain threatened to put out the flame on Charmander's tail, which, as we all know, is tied to its life force. When Brock furiously confronted him, telling him his Charmander could literally die, Damian just laughed it off. He saw no value in a Pokémon that couldn't win, and therefore no value in its life. Of course, Ash, Misty, and Brock rushed to save the little guy, shielding its flickering flame and getting it to the Pokémon Center. But even after all that, Charmander's loyalty was so strong that it snuck out to go back to that rock, still believing its trainer would keep his word. It wasn't until Damian showed up again, not because he was worried, but because he saw Charmander beat Team Rocket and wanted his strong Pokémon back, that the illusion was shattered. Damian actually admitted he left it there to toughen up, glad he didn't have to do the hard work himself. In that moment, Charmander finally saw the truth, deflected Damian's Pokeball with its tail, and chose to go with Ash, the trainer who showed it what real care looked like. Not all abandonment is as simple as being left on a rock. Sometimes it's a slow, grinding process of psychological torment. That was the tragic reality for Chimchar under its original trainer, Paul, Ash's intensely cold rival in Sinnoh. Paul's entire philosophy was basically Pokémon eugenics. Only the absolute strongest survive, and any sign of weakness was an instant deal breaker. He didn't just want strong Pokémon. He wanted them to be strong in the exact way he demanded. For Chimchar, that meant activating its Blaze ability, a power that only triggers when a fire type is on the verge of fainting. To force this to happen, Paul put Chimchar through brutal training sessions that were closer to torture. He'd throw Chimchar into battles against multiple, much stronger opponents, with zero concern for its safety. This wasn't training, it was a cruel experiment. Whenever Chimchar inevitably failed to trigger Blaze and lost, Paul would call it pathetic, crushing its spirit after it had tried so desperately to please him. The breaking point came after a tag battle. Even though they won, Paul decided Chimchar was a failure. He didn't yell or get angry. He just coldly told the little Pokémon, "You're out of here," and released it on the spot. He turned his back without a second thought, casually mentioning he'd just find a new fire type. The rejection was so devastating that Chimchar, completely broken, actually begged Paul to take it back. It was Ash who stepped in and offered Chimchar a home, a place where it would be loved for its spirit, not judged for its power. Ash's kindness was the perfect antidote to Paul's coldness, allowing Chimchar to heal and prove that real strength comes from friendship, not from fear. Trainers like Damian, Paul, and Seamus reveal a dark side to the Pokémon world, where trust can be a one-way street and loyalty gets punished. Each story is a painful reminder that being a trainer is a huge responsibility that some people just aren't ready for. So, who do you think was the cruelest trainer of them all? And are there any other abandoned Pokémon whose stories have always stuck with you? Let me know in the comments. From a Tepig tied to a post to a Charmander left to die in the rain, these stories are tough to hear. But they are also stories of hope. Every one of these Pokémon was eventually found by Ash, a trainer who saw their true potential, helped them heal, and watched them grow into powerful, confident partners. Their journeys are the ultimate proof that a Pokémon's real strength isn't just about winning battles. It's about having the heart to trust again after being so badly betrayed. If you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to like and subscribe for more Pokémon stories.